Hey everyone, welcome to the very first episode of What Just Happened. Today we're diving into one of my own games, played on the Chessnut Air, connected through ChessConnect, and timed on the TapNset Pro clock. We're starting the game as white with e4, and black answers with e5, a classic king's pawn opening, setting the stage for an open, tactical battle. I bring my knight out to f3, immediately putting pressure on black's e-pawn. My opponent responds with knight to c6, a solid developing move that also defends that pawn. Both sides are following opening principles here, quick development and control of the center. I bring my bishop to b5, the Roy Lopez. Black replies with pawn to e6, reinforcing the e5 pawn. I develop my knight to c3, adding more control in the center. Black pushes a6, trying to chase my bishop. Here I see a chance to double up black's pawns, and honestly, I love doing that whenever I can, so I take his knight with my bishop on c6. He doesn't really have a choice but to recapture, so he takes back with his b-pawn. That leaves him with doubled c-pawns, which means long-term weaknesses on that side of the board. At this stage, I spot a chance to take even more control of the center, so I push my pawn to d4. That square is well protected. I've got two defenders against just one attacker, so the move is completely safe and gives me a strong central presence. Black follows up with a bishop to g4, pinning my knight on the f3 to the queen. But this isn't the most accurate choice. The engine actually suggests playing pawn to f6 instead, to reinforce the center. By choosing bg4, he gives me some room to build a lead in activity. Quick shout out to Chessnut, ChessConnect, and SmartFun for these amazing products. Playing with the Chessnut Air, synced through ChessConnect and timed on the TapNset Pro from SmartFun, it just makes me want to play games like this every single day. The whole setup is worth every penny, and I honestly have no issues recommending it to anyone who loves playing over the board. The Chessnut Air, ChessConnect adapter, and the TapNset Pro from SmartFun just makes the experience complete. Here I decide it's time to strike in the center, so I take the pawn on e5 with my d-pawn, opening things up. I don't mind opening up the file for my queen here, because the line would end with me winning a pawn. Black immediately responds by taking my knight with his bishop, and that forces me to recapture with my queen. Now my queen is active in the middle of the board, and the position is opening up quickly. Black takes back the pawn on e5, and since we're in the Roy Lopez, it's worth pausing for a moment on why this opening is so iconic. The whole idea is that white pressures black's knight on c6 and the pawn on e5, trying to create long-term weaknesses. For centuries, the Roy Lopez has been one of the most studied openings in chess, from beginner games all the way up to world championship matches. Even here, you can already see the tension it creates in the center and the queen side. I decide it's the right moment to castle kingside, getting my king safe and connecting my rooks. Black responds with queen to f6, lining up directly against my queen on f3. That creates immediate tension on the f-file with both queens staring at each other. By castling kingside, my king is safe and my rooks are connected, which is a big step in any opening. Now after black plays queen to f6, we have this sharp tension, my queen on f3 and his queen on f6 staring each other down. In positions like this, small mistakes can become very costly, because an exchange of queens could open files or change the balance of the game completely. And that's one of the fascinating things about the Roy Lopez. It isn't just about the early bishop move to b5, it often leads to rich middle game battles, where both sides fight for control of the center and long-term pawn weaknesses decide the outcome. Here, black's doubled c-pawns are already a target for me, while he's trying to generate counterplay through piece activity. With both queens staring each other down, I decide to simplify the position and take his queen off the board. He immediately recaptures with his knight. The queens are gone, which reduces the direct tension, but now it's all about the piece activity and pawn structure going forward. I decide to move my bishop back to e3, but this turns out to be a mistake. The stronger move was to put my bishop right next to the knight on g5, putting more pressure on his position. Instead, black plays exactly what I should have done, place his bishop next to my knight, gaining activity and making me regret not choosing the sharper line. I move my pawn up to f2 to guard it from the knight on f6. Black responds with h6, but that's actually a mistake. The stronger move here would have been to capture my knight. That would have doubled my pawns and left me with a weaker structure. By pushing h6 instead, he gives me a little more breathing room. The Ruy Lopez is one of the oldest and most respected openings in chess. It's named after a Spanish priest, Ruy Lopez de Segura, who published one of the first great chess books back in 1561. Even though the game was still played without modern castling rules, he already recognized that attacking the knight on c6 was a powerful idea. Over the centuries, legends like Capablanca, Fischer, and Kasparov all made the Ruy Lopez their main weapon with white. It became the battleground for world championships because it balances solid positional play with deep tactical chances. Even today, it's a favorite at the very highest level. Magnus Carlsen and Ian Nepomniachtchi have both used it in world title matches. So when you hear Ruy Lopez, you're really talking about 450 years of chess history packed into those first 3 moves. I decided to move my knight back to e2, the safe move, but not the most ambitious. The better idea here was knight to a4. That would have put pressure on b6 and prepared some queenside activity by retreating. I give black an easier time. He castles kingside, finally getting his king to safety. Now we're firmly in the mid-game. But notice the clock. Black already has a 4-minute lead. In faster time controls, that gap can be just as dangerous as a small positional mistake. I play a3 to kick the bishop, and black drops it back to a5. The bishop still keeps pressure on the diagonal, but I've gained some space on the queen side. I'm playing this game on the Chessnut Air board. What I really like is that every move gets picked up instantly and synced to Lichess, so I can focus on the game without touching a mouse. Pieces have a nice weight to them, and the board feels nice, like a real over-the-board experience. With all the convenience of playing online, it really bridges the gap between digital and physical chess. I bring my rook over to d1, taking control of the open file, but looking back, the stronger move was c4. That would have challenged black's center and cut off the bishop's long diagonal. By choosing the rook move, I improved my activity, but I missed the chance to limit his bishop. He plays bishop b6, I trade bishops, and he recaptures with the pawn. That undoubles his pawn, so the exchange actually helps the structure. I bring my rook up to d6, putting pressure on all his pawns along the 6th rank. I've always believed getting pieces deep into your opponent's half is powerful. It ties them down. Plus, this move also sets me up to connect my rooks on the d file. Black places his rook on d8, effectively shutting down my plans of building a powerful battery along the open file and making it clear that he's not going to let me dominate this line without a fight. From this point, we go into a sequence of rook exchanges, a classic simplification that changes the nature of the position, shifting the battle away from heavy firepower and towards pawn structure and activity of the minor pieces. Electronic boards are such a cool bridge between online and over-the-board chess. You get the comfort of playing with real pieces in a physical board, but at the same time, everything is tracked digitally. Your moves go straight into the clock, into your game history, and you can even stream or analyze in real time. One of the things I really like about electronic boards is how they bridge the gap between casual play and the online chess world. You get the feel of moving real pieces, hearing that satisfying click on the squares, and just sitting in front of a proper board like you would at a tournament. But at the same time, everything's being logged instantly. Your moves are recorded, the clock is updated, and you can share or analyze the game later without having to write anything down. Another big plus is for streaming or recording games. Since viewers can see both the board and a clean digital overlay at the same time, it also keeps you honest about notation and move order, which is a lifesaver if you're studying or reviewing openings. And honestly, there's just something fun about blending modern tech with a centuries-old game. It makes chess feel fresh while still keeping all the tradition. Back to the game. After black plays rook to c8 to defend his pawn, I decide to bring my knight back to c3, but looking at it later, the better square was actually g3. From there, the knight would have had much more flexibility, aiming toward key central and kingside squares. Black wastes no time and it immediately expands with pawn to b5, pushing on the queenside. I'm still waiting for the chestnut move to arrive, hopefully next week. It's this incredible robotic chessboard where each piece actually moves itself. No arm or magnet under the board, but tiny bots in every piece. It's full size, same playing area as a tournament board, so it won't be smaller or more portable than what I use now, but I'm still excited to have it. What makes it stand out is how fast and smooth it is. Every piece can reposition in under 3 seconds with 1mm accuracy. Plus it connects to chess.com, Lichess, voice commands, built-in Stockfish app. Chess just happens by itself. As we move through this phase of the game, you'll notice how my knight really starts to shine. Knights are tricky pieces. They can hop over pawns and slip into squares that are hard to cover. And here mine is doing exactly that. Bit by bit, I'm chipping away at his pawns, and every small capture adds up. Pawns are the soul of the position, and once they disappear, the weaknesses in this camp become much more obvious. By the end of this sequence, I've managed to create open lines and pick off material, leaving me with quite a comfortable advantage heading into the endgame. Now we head into the endgame, and this is where things get rough. I'm down to almost no time, so the mistakes start to pile up quickly. Eventually, everything simplifies into a rook and king versus king ending, and honestly, I've never managed to convert one of those cleanly. Even with time on the clock, it can be tricky, and with the pressure ticking down, it becomes almost impossible. Alright, let's watch the final minute play out as I try my best to convert this rook and king endgame. With so little time left, it's all about instinct and speed. Every check, every step of the king matters, and the pressure is on to see if I can actually pull this one off.